Hey y'all, Andrea from Andrea Speaks TV, back bringing news and commentary you can use. Listen, y'all, I just wanted to give you an update on the what can be called the migrant crisis in Chicago. Now, listen, I brought y'all an update a couple of weeks back, right? If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll be sure to link it at the end of this one. But listen at what's going on, y'all. According to my sources, okay, Chicago, okay, the state of Illinois will not proceed with the Brighton Park camp. Now, I want y'all to follow me now. Listen to this story, y'all. Illinois will not proceed with the Brighton Park camp for Chicago migrants after what they're calling an environmental review. What's going on with this, y'all? Now, listen to this, okay? So if you're wondering, okay, Andrea, how do we, get to this point? As our border, right, Mexico, United States border, it seems to be somewhat, not secure. Many of the cities, states along the border, what they have been doing is they have been sending migrants by bus, maybe even some by plane, to other cities such as Chicago. Some that can be called, I guess you could say, sanctuary cities, possibly. You could do your research on that. But listen, y'all, that's how many of them got to Chicago. So listen to what's going on. Okay. Illinois, okay, the state of Illinois will not proceed with what they're calling an asylum seeker shelter in Brighton Park after an environmental review, a news release from the governor's office said Tuesday. Okay, here's a quote by the Illinois EPA director, John J. Kim, who said, and I quote, IEPA would not approve the proposed Brighton Park site for residential use based on our regulatory standards for remediation of contaminated properties, okay? So y'all, or they were about to build this migrant camp. Okay, now I want you all to go and do your research. Look at what these camps look like, y'all. Something very concerning about this, okay? Now, this person, the EPA director, also, Illinois EPA director, also went on to say, and I quote, the well-being of residents and workers at the site is our highest priority, and current and planned site conditions do not adequately reduce risk of human exposure to known and potential environmental conditions, okay? They cited these concerns, according to my sources, after what they're calling, the IEPA cited concerns related to what they're calling insufficient soil sampling and remediation, okay? The governor said this from the governor's office, who said, and I quote, given the significant time required to conduct additional sampling, to process and analyze results, and to implement corresponding further remediation, the state will work with the city. The state of Illinois will work with the city of Chicago to identify alternate shelter options, okay? Now, many of the residents in this particular area were relieved. Let's see, news of the cancellation, my sources say, was a welcome relief to residents here or there who have opposed the idea of having a large-scale migrant camp. Now, I want you all to look. You can do your internet research. Maybe you want to type in large-scale migrant camp and just look at how it looks, y'all, and how they got it set up. It's very concerning, okay? So the people in that area, they were opposed to having a migrant camp literally in their backyard, okay? But the article says the political fallout is just beginning as a blame game, okay? They're pointing fingers, y'all, between the mayor and the governor begins as to who is at fault for this entire fiasco, okay? Now, they're saying it's been nearly 7 weeks of nonstop controversy, protests, accusations leveled against elected officials, and now, listen to this, y'all, millions of dollars in an 800-page environmental report later, the state has pulled the plug on the Brighton Park site that was destined to become a winterized base camp for up to 2,000 migrants, okay? The state also had this to say, and I quote, we will not proceed with housing families on a site where serious environmental concerns are still present. The remediation implemented thus far does not satisfy IEPA standards and are insufficient. Okay, that's according to the state. Now, the state of Illinois, the information I'm reading says, knew that this assessment was happening and felt confident enough to continue to build on this site. They had already been building on the site, y'all. They don't do like soil samples and studies. Isn't that a part of the process before they begin to redevelop the area and the land? Okay, I'm just asking questions. Y'all let me know your thoughts on this, okay? How did this happen? How were millions of dollars spent to set up, this particular area, this migrant camp? I want y'all to, again, y'all, make sure you do your research, see what it looks like, okay? All this money was spent preparing that and building it. Whether they built it or, were, what am I trying to say? Not that they built it, but they spent so many millions of dollars preparing this migrant camp. And now all of a sudden they're not going to go through with it. Okay. Let's see, y'all. Okay, they have a couple of more quotes here. One person was quoted as saying, one person with the IEPA said that, hold on one second, let me make sure I have this correct. Okay, here's a message from the statement from the mayor's office, who said the state of Illinois knew that this assessment was happening and felt confident enough to continue to build on the site and to go into contract with Garter World, said Mayor Brandon Johnson. The state did not provide any additional guidelines or any sort of methodology in which they were requiring us to go by. Okay. This person also spoke before the IEPA decision was released, suggesting that the city could have picked a different place for the base camp. Okay. This spokesperson said, and I quote, "We don't pick the sites in the city. We don't pick the sites in the city, right? The city has sites that it has made available. This is the only one that they have pointed to and wanted to focus on. These are for asylum seekers," they're saying, and making sure that they're kept from the elements as it gets colder and colder. Okay, now, also the article says that while the governor's and mayor's offices point fingers in each other's directions, residents and their attorneys on Tuesday clearly hold both responsible. Which party do you feel like is responsible, y'all? Okay. Brighton Park resident, one Brighton Park resident said, and I quote, "They had this information at least a month ago and they continue to build." Okay. The resident also said, "I'm really grateful somebody finally got some sense." Okay. Another resident said, or their attorney on behalf of the Brighton Park residents said, and I quote, "We wasted tons of money. We wasted tons of money. Our tax dollars have disappeared." Okay. It was incompetence. It was poor communication, poor planning, poor management. It's a waste of money. How in the world, right? So again, y'all, it goes back to what I was saying, taking the taxpayers' dollars, right? Taxpaying citizens and putting it towards, housing these migrants. Not to say that people don't need help, right? There is, like I've always said, a humanitarian thing to do, but what about the people in the area? What resources, what things do they need? How could that money that was for some reason maybe already there, or it was brought in, additional funding was brought in, how is it that, how could that money have been spent on the residents in that particular area? Okay. So it seems like there's a big mess now. Not sure really how this is going to be rectified. It looks like they have already spent what they're saying is millions and millions of dollars to prepare this particular place. And so quite naturally, don't you think the people in this area have a right to be upset? They're also working with, it looks like, religious groups, religious organizations to identify other brick and mortar sites that might be quickly turned over, they're saying, for use as shelters during the winter months. Okay. Again, y'all, one concern is taking, and I said this in the particular article that I did when I talked about the migrant crisis in Chicago, taking resources away from people in the community, whether it's men, women, children, different organizations, after school programs, different activities throughout the week. Those things are being taken away to house, some people that are coming here for whatever reason, whether it be illegally to seek a better way of life, different reasons. We can't always assume that people are coming to do harm. Surely we hope not, right? So I want to know your thoughts on this. This is a big mess now going on in Chicago. I'm reading this particular article, which was dated December the 5th, which was just a few days ago. So let me know your thoughts on this. Do they get that money back that was spent, that they're not going to set up the place anymore? Like what is really going on? So let me know your thoughts, y'all. I just want to give you an update on what's happening regarding the migrant crisis in Chicago and the people of the Brighton Park area. So I want to know your thoughts. Let me know how you feel about it. It's very concerning. This is the way a lot of things are going. And a lot of people have different feelings about it, mixed emotions. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know your thoughts. Okay, so please let me know in the comments. Do you think this is right? What should become of the taxpayers' money that they're saying has now been wasted? Okay, talk to you in the next video. Thanks so much for supporting me here on Andrea Speaks TV.